folks, and welcome to this 3.9 Path of Exile guide. Today we're talking zombies, we're talking shaped Crusader Baron memes, we're talking destroying the endgame content. So everybody's played Necromancer, we know minions are overpowered, but I'm still doing the build, and why is that? Well, I made the helmet and I wanted to treat myself to a nice meta build, but also, on top of that, the build's the best build I've ever played in Path of Exile. I've put a lot of currency into it, granted, but even before the currency went into it, it just felt really strong. And every time I play a build that I really enjoy playing, I just share my experience with it, I chat about the build, and that's what I've done for years. It feels like it's got some of the most damage I've ever played, the best survivability. Everything about the build just seems really, really solid. I've had 0 deaths. I'm level 97, I've done every piece of content in the game. Beacon, Cirrus 8, Uber Elder, you know, double beyond tier 16, whatever you want to do, it's done it and I haven't died. And I've never thought once, oh, I better not do that piece of content because I might die. No, I've just done everything. Every Metamorph, just boom, in it goes, and it's never killed me. It's running out of battery, so I'll probably head over to the stream setup and do it off my PC. So if the quality of the camera dips, apologies. This has been a super enjoyable build, and as always, I like to share a build that has just been a joy to play. So let's get into the build, let's chat about it, and let's finally show some gameplay. If you enjoy this, give it a thumbs up, give it a comment, let's get into the build guide. Boom. So this is the first sort of end game piece of content. This is a Awakened level 8 Cirrus. This build right now currently has pretty much everything ramped up. This is kind of like the pinnacle, I guess, of the build. This is my first ever Cirrus 8, so we're still kind of learning the fight. I've only managed to have 3 goes. The first one was a level 1, which we basically AFK'd. There was a level 4 one, and this was our first Awakened level 8. The build itself has great survivability. It has capped out chaos res, beyond capped out. It's 80% chaos. It has 81 fire, 80 cold, and 85 lightning, I believe, or 84 lightning. And we're taking some hits of physical as lightning, so just for that extra mitigation. So the concept of the build, which you're watching for the first time if you're new to Baron Zombies, is just that. You have roughly 13 zombies, you have 4 Spectres, you have some Skitterbots, and you'll have a Golem and an Animate Guardian. Now, there are a lot of things and a lot of sort of upgrades I've made to the build that have made it this comfortable. But this can be a budget build, and I'm not just saying that just to get clicks or something like that. No, you can 100% play Baron Zombies on a budget, and that's what originally enticed me to the build. However, I found that it's got a hell of a lot of scalability. Something I personally didn't really realise about minions was just how much money you can sink into it if you want. I've always thought of minions as the cheap budget build that kind of get it done, but sort of lack that end game bossing power, or you can sort of do it but it just doesn't feel that great. However, this build feels really good. It's a hell of a lot of damage. I'm just completely chunking him down. The playstyle, what you're seeing is I'm casting skeletons, and skeletons then casts Desecrate, Spirit Offering, and Vulnerability. So I'm not using the channeled Cyclone setup, so you spin to Offering or anything like that. I am still sort of manually, in a way, cursing, but I think the benefits are there to be seen. When you have a wand and a shield, you have so much maximum res that you're so tanky, and I just flame dash around. And honestly, this is like a walk-in fight. This is the end game fight of the highest level, and I'm just kind of stood there cheerleading, and it's pretty crazy. Considering I don't truly know what's going on, it's not like an Uber Elder fight that I've done a lot. It really was crazy just how much he got chunked down. So the zombies effectively surround, the skeletons shoot from a distance, and I'm just simply pressing Desecrate to give them a little bit of an extra damage buff. You can use Flesh Offering or you know, for a bit, or the defensive one for a bit of block, but that's it really. That's the end game fight done already, deathless, just sort of walking around. Absolutely mental. So after you've seen these two bosses, I'm pretty sure you'll be confident that the damage and the survivability and everything is there, and we'll just jump to the gear. I don't need to make the guide longer than it needs to be. There'll be a path of building and I'll sit and explain all the gems. I've got tons of footage saved up, but really now that I'm thinking about actually piecing the guide together, the viewer only really needs to know if it can do Uber Elder and it can do Awaken Cirrus level 8, it's pretty damn good build, and I don't really need to show me running through maps. There might be a few clips of just showing sort of how it plays through maps, but honestly the playstyle is just sprint through and occasionally convocate the minions towards you. You can see the damage on the portals. This was before I had my new multi-strike gem as well, so there's more damage to be had, probably a ton more damage really if we think about this logically. With the awakened multi-strike gem, I would have killed this even quicker. But yeah, the zombies just surround everything. The skeletons do damage from distance. I'm cursing with vulnerability. I have a crazy amount of effective HP pool. The soul tether is allowing me to leech energy shield, so the minions that are dealing damage are leeching the energy shield back to me. It's killing the portal phase. It's dealing with all of the sort of degen and all of the suction zones, and it's just super chill. I can't describe how chill the build is. I just walk around and buff a team of cheerleaders. Again, there's been currency sank into it. My Animate Guardian does have decent wealth on him, but I was doing all of this without the crazy upgrades. It's just become a build that I can sink more and more currency into, and the playstyle just becomes smoother and smoother and more fun, and more relaxed as well. Sometimes you can ramp up a crazy build and the build's incredible, but if you misplay it ever slightly, you're dead. With this, no, you're just chilling. You can tab out, you can do whatever you want. And this is, again, 3.9, so Uber Elder's been buffed by a lot. In fact, all the bosses have, and I'm destroying the portals. No minions have died, no Spectres have died, zombies, nothing. I'm just running around effectively killing stuff as fast as it can spawn, and it's been a very impressive and fun build to play, and I thought I'd showcase it. I've always had Ice Shot Void Fletcher as the pinnacle of my builds. I had like a mirror tier Watcher's Eye, mirror tier belt, you know, I had the chain quiver on the Void Fletcher. I had everything. It was an incredible build, but honestly, for overall survivability and just relaxed playstyle, this is the best build I've played. There's only one weakness to it, and it's not great at Legion, because it doesn't quite have the splash damage to clear a Legion quick. That's the only downside I can think to the build. Spoiler alert, the jewel I got was complete garbage. However, you can't moan at getting a Watcher's Eye off Uber Elder, can you? Alright, I actually had a better idea. Rather than seeing mapping, because we all know you're just going to run through and the zombies are going to kill everything, I thought I would showcase sort of a string of Metamorph sort of kills, just to show you kind of how it deals with the bosses themselves. All of these are at least eye level 82, heart and liver and everything pieces, but I'm pretty sure every single piece was level 83, which is like the hardest Metamorphs you can get. I saved them all up and I sort of did a run for you of just killing Metamorphs, and this doesn't have a headhunter, so I'm not stacking any mods, which I could be doing. This is just your default 1 Chaos Soul Tether belt, and this is kind of literally the playstyle. So you map, and then eventually when you get to the end game boss, you spawn it, you're going to curse it, you're going to Spirit Offering, which are all, you know, been done in one action due to the wand, and then you're going to Val Skeleton when you've got a charge, and then you just stand still, you press all of your flasks to sort of make you a bit more tanky, and that's it. That's the build. It's just really surprising to me, and maybe it's because I've never done minions before, just how much ramp damage and survivability they had. I've always, like I said, thought of minions as a slow, boring build that nobody wants to play, but they just play it because it's a budget option. But it's turning out to be really good, or should I say it turned out to be really good. And again, share it with you, and then we'll chat about the gear and what you need to get it going. As always, like and comment the videos. They help a ton to help my channel grow, and if you're a Gears fan, and you're supporting. Really do appreciate it, because we got to branch out a little bit, and so we're going back to Path of Exile a tiny bit. So yeah, these are just Metamorphs spawning and getting popped. These are all, again, 83 Metamorphs. And this is how the game's been for me for the past week. Well, now that I've got the build fully ramped, you just do the map, and then the boss comes out, and you never once fear the one shot. Whereas sometimes on other builds, you might have the damage, but there are these moments where you're like, I'm about to get deleted. But this one has just been super comfortable, and that was just an example of a couple of high-level Metamorphs getting crushed. And now we will jump to the gear, because that's probably what everybody wants to see. Again, in the description will be a path of building. Please don't freak out when you see the path of building. Yes, there are a lot of expensive things in there. There are 21 gems, but I haven't purchased a single 21 gem. They've all been hand corrupted by me from playing the game, and I know it's kind of a meme when people say it's not needed, because obviously having 21 gems does help, but it's not going to take you from being a build that doesn't work to a build that does work. This build already functions on regular gear. I just have the currency because it's so comfortable at end game that I've been making a lot of currency, and I thought, why not? I'll treat myself to some upgrades. So there we go. Let's get into the gear. Let's get into the gears. Albron's Warpath Soldier Boots. 1 Chaos Orb to purchase. If you get a good strength roll, they're going to be at maximum 30 Chaos. I recommend just trying to snipe a pair for a Chaos Orb, or just divining them. There's only a roll from 15 to 18. These, because I'm a lab runner, I've enchanted with a bit of spell dodge. That just helps survivability. That's something you can do for free. Just run it through the lab. Again, these just give you Chaos Res, movement speed, an extra skeleton, which really isn't that relevant, to be honest. A bit of chaos damage to attacks, again, basically irrelevant. It's all about just the strength stacking, the movement speed, and Chaos Res. And inside of these, we have my Purity of Lightning, which is going to give me all my lightning res effectively. The Skitterbots, Flame Dashed for move, and Melee Splash isn't needed. That's just there to level. Ideally, in an ideal world, you put a level 4 Enlighten here, and then you run Flesh and Stone. So you would get rid of Flame Dash, level 4 Enlighten, Flesh and Stone, and then you'd be doing some crazy damage, but I'm not there yet. The belt is the Soul Tether. We'll touch on that now. That just effectively gives you a certain amount of life as extra energy shield, and it allows the zombies which are leeching to leech to your energy shield. This is allowed basically through a conversion jewel, which is down here. You put it in this socket, a Glorious Vanity of the Doriani, and this gives you effectively 20% of maximum life as maximum energy shield. And 50% of non-chaos damage taken goes through your energy shield. So this is effectively, you get 20 life as ES, and you can leech damage dealt to your energy shield. That's what's happening with this combination. We'll run through the tree, don't worry, in a bit more detail. The gloves, the Shaper's Touch, these have +2 duration on. These cost me 30 chaos. So far it's like 1 chaos, 30, 30. The +2 duration is effectively just giving my skeletons +2 level. That's going to give you a tiny bit more damage, tiny bit more duration. They have Melee Splash, they have Feeding Frenzy, and they have minion damage. For example, a 21 minion damage might sound expensive. It's 50 chaos. I valed it myself. I thought it was more expensive than it was. All of these little things don't truly matter. Awakened Melee Splash. You know, it sounds, oh, he's got an Awakened gem. That's crazy, but it's 74 chaos. Like, you can farm your way to that for sure. And this is, again, just turning some of our strength into energy shield, which we are in turn going to leech. Now, I will admit, the rings were a little bit tricky. The rings were a little bit tricky, and these were the final upgrade of the build. Before I had these rings, they were just life and resists. They didn't have any chaos res. Now, because I managed to get the chaos res, I sort of tweaked the tree. So we'll chat about that sort of when we get to the tree. However, don't worry too much about getting 80 chaos res. What I will say is having chaos resist on the ring really does help. It's not the end of the world, it's not going to stop the build functioning, but it has made the build much more comfortable, just as doing your Pantheons has. So if you go to the Pantheon, if we can find him, I think Sin is in Act 10 somewhere. I did the Poison Pantheon. That also helps. So the ring, it has no strength, even though I'm a strength stacking build. It just has cold, fire, chaos res, and then cold and chaos res. And I double exalted this. I did a Redeemer exalt and then another exalt, and I got 9 evasion and 9 increased evasion. So you can all laugh at that, my poor luck. But that's all it is. 72 life with a bit of res and some chaos res. The reason we're able to effectively cap ourselves out whilst wearing so many uniques is minion builds get resists for how many minions they have raised, and obviously our zombies and stuff don't die, so we can get cheaper gear because we're getting resists through our ascendancy. So that's all that is. It's just chaos and life. The next duel, the next ring, again, life, chaos resist, fire res, and I exalted on reflect, and I exalted on 1 energy shield. Again, 2 bricks. Again, the chaos res is very nice. I'd be lying if I said it wasn't, but your build is still going to function without that, right? The only thing that I've done here is I've put aspect of the avian onto my ring. The only other place you could put this is onto your wand if you've got a spare slot. And what this does is it basically gives us aspect of the avian, which gives us a rotating buff to deal double damage. And obviously the chest piece then grants avians might and flight to nearby allies, and it increases the buff effect. So that your rings are life, chaos, and then put an avian skill on it. Your amulet is just an Astramentus. I've put on some attribute modifiers through the catalyst. This just gets you a ton of strength. You could go a lot further. You could have an increased attributes and increased strength rare sort of amulet. This is the cheaper version. It works. I have no problem with it. Gives a ton of stats, dex in everything you need. Really, really handy item. The shield, this is a 1 chaos Sappho's frame. This basically gives us maximum res and some resistance as well to help us cap, and it gives us some chance to block spell damage. Corrupted onto this is Fizz taken as lightning, and the reason that is on there is because we do have, it won't show it because I'm not in my hideout. I probably should go to my hideout. We have basically 84 lightning res, so taking Fizz as lightning is good for us. However, it's not needed, and you're going to say, what? Come on. But honestly, look, I'll show you. When I go into my shop and I have a look, these are all of my failed attempts. These are all cost me 1 Chaos Orb to buy, and I just fouled them. Eventually, you're going to get it, and if you don't, you might get a +1. You know, there's a +2 curse gem there. You might get some different. You might get some white sockets. It all adds up, but it's not necessary. So all you're looking for is just a Sappho's frame. If you can get Fizz damage taken as lightning, obviously that's going to make you a bit tankier. But I was just using these until I eventually got it corrupted. Next on the build is going to be a wand. This wand was expensive. This was a, basically, I would say it cost me about 7 exalts to make the +1/+1. You can then be really brave and pray if there's a extra prefix to annul it, and then you can craft minion damage, or you can leave it as is. Before I had a +1/+1 wand, I originally had a sword, and the sword was a Queen's Decree. I think it was the upgraded one, or maybe the Queen's Decree is the upgraded one. But for the point of this guide, I'm using a wand. You can just get a +1 wand very, very easily. Every single attempt I did with the fossil combination gave me +1. +1 again is more difficult to hit, but it's not outrageous, and honestly 67 exalts for a wand isn't that crazy. I've heard of a lot more expensive gear. What I did was I tried to metacraft this. What I mean by metacraft is I tried to relentlessly wipe the suffixes and try and exalt until I got something good. I tried this twice. The first one I got fire res. The second one I got minion resistance, and I figured, well, it's giving something to my minions, so I may as well just keep it. I then multi-modded it and I put trigger a socketed spell on skill and some minion damage. All you really need to complete the end game is a +1 minion skill gem wand and trigger a socketed spell when you use a skill. The reason this is important is that's how we sort of automate our setup. If you press Spirit Offering, if you use a skill, should I say, like Summon Skeletons, it will then cast Spirit Offering, Desecrate, and Vulnerability. That way we don't really need the Cyclone setup. So that's kind of how that's going. Again, +1 spell when focused, that's what you're looking for. The Baron helmet is the Pride and Joy. It is the shaped Baron Crusader meme helmet. But basically all you need is a regular Baron that costs 1 Chaos Orb. I've got the enchant on it. The reason I've got the enchant is because I wanted to make the meme helmet. I ran it through the lab until I got some sort of enchant that worked for my build. I don't know if this is the most efficient enchant. You can get zombie attack speed, you can get zombie damage, you could get some sort of mana reservation on a Baron. This was just the only enchant that popped up for me that was somewhat useful for the build, so I stuck with it. And again, the Baron just gives us strength. So that's kind of the gear. Life resists, shield wand, and that's how it's working. There'll be a path of building in the description. My flasks, if you're curious: move speed, remove freeze. There's a bottled faith, which yes is very expensive. I brought that over from my cast on crit build because why not? If you've got it, use it. If not, you could just use a regular sulfur flask, maybe even a defensive flask, because to be honest the damage is really good. I've got a basalt, curse removal, and I've got an enduring hallowed flask. This is probably the most important because it allows us to sustain our mana, so an enduring hallowed flask is really good. And that's really it. The next thing we can go is, if we go into our hideout, we can go ahead and we can talk about sort of the Spectres. So the Spectres I've got should actually probably be improved. You can get a Rallying Cry Spectre. Just Google Rallying Cry Spectre, you'll know where to summon it. I personally just summoned 2 chieftains from the old fields in Act 2. They give me Frenzy Charge, and I believe it was Act 7, the Ashen Fields. It's either the Ashen Fields or Northern Forest. They're the same chieftains, but they, quote, empower allies, and they just give us Frenzy power charges. And I just run around with 4 of them, and they never die. So that's kind of that. My Animate Guardian, which I'll summon now if I get rid of these boys. If I summon him, the king himself, this guy got treated, okay? So effectively, what I would say is, my Animate Guardian has just blood magic and meat shield. That's it, right? He doesn't need this Kingmaker on him, and he doesn't need the gear he's got, but I'll show you what I did in case you want to go for the end game stuff. So originally I had a tab, and this is what I had on him. I had this chest piece, I had an Abamu's Charge, I had a Leocast Jewel, I had some Southbound gloves, and I had a pair of Victaro's Flight boots. Victaro's Flight give you move speed when you're near him, so it makes you faster. That's why I'm faster when he's around. When he's not around, I'm a bit slower, as you can see. When he spawns, I'm a bit faster. These 4 pieces of gear cost a Chaos Orb each, and that got me going forever. It was only after I did loads of like end game farming and the Animate Guardian hadn't died that I thought to myself, alright, I should probably treat this guy to some upgrades. The upgrades I gave him, so what I would recommend is just map a lot. And then if you find that he's just never dying, then go for it, upgrade him, it's worth it. So what I did was I gave him a Kingmaker Axe. This is made by Vendorin, a Soul Taker, a Heartbreaker Skeen, and 1 Orb of Fusing. What this gives us is it gives us Fortify when I'm near him, and it gives my minions Culling Strike. It costs 2 Exalts. It sounds like a lot, because if this guy dies, you lose it. But that was my very, very last upgrade. That's like the creme de la creme, right? You don't need that, but it's pretty damn good. Definitely would recommend it highly. Very, very good. I wish I'd have done it earlier. I just didn't trust the guy to stay alive. However, he's got a crazy amount of health, and he just really doesn't die. So your expensive setup, your cheap setup is going to be this with a pair of Victaro's Flight. Your expensive setup is you're still going to keep the same gloves. You're still going to keep the Victaro's Flights, but the chest piece, I'm blanking. No, I've got it now. The chest piece is a Gruthgul's Pelt. This gives him like 5% life regen and about 200 health. That comes in at an Exalt, so he's wearing 3 Exalts of gear. And that's just going to keep him alive even more. What I would say is if you're going to put the Heartbreaker on him, put the Gruthgul's on it as well. Because you wouldn't want him to die and lose the Gruthgul's or the Heartbreaker. But honestly, he's not going to die, trust me. Now, the helmet, I went over the top. It only cost me a few chaos, but instead of wearing this, which gives nearby allies have increased damage, I actually went for a bone helmet. I took a regular bone helmet. I got a frigid, sorry, not a frigid fossil. I got a physical damage fossil, and I just did some fossils until nearby enemies take 9% increased fizz. And then I stuck some life on it. And now that's why you can see him with a bone helmet on. So when he's near people, they take 9% increased fizz. They've got Fortify and Culling Strike. And this guy is like crazy, man. I didn't realise minions had this much utility and power, but definitely recommend it. And this buff here you can see rotating is the Avian's Might. So that is the build. And I very, very much enjoyed it. If you want to ask anything specific, you can ask me in chat, in my Twitch chat, or the comments. I'll try to answer you. The path of building is going to explain the gem links. I don't think there's anything too difficult to get to grips with. You just basically cast in skeletons. That casts your curse, as you can see, the Desecrate, and then it casts Spirit Offering. And then you just sort of run around and kill stuff. And the more zombies you have, the more resistance you have, effectively. But you can see, even with all my zombies down, I'm 81, 80, 85. I think that's because I've got a few skeletons near me. But yeah, the build's really, really tanky. The last thing I probably should touch on is these 3 jewels. I haven't looked at the price since I purchased them, I'll tell you now. The price of these is 70c each. And these just convert the intelligence to strength. I roughly paid an Exalt for mine, so that's pretty bad. The last thing is, right, this jewel. Here's where my build kind of took off, I think, to the next level. And it's complete RNG. I'm sorry to include it, because I don't like guides that have this kind of crap in them. But it is what happened. When I divined it to be Doriani, the only thing you need is Doriani, right? The Doriani keystone, I think I've even got a spare one to show you, changes what happens to the sort of node. So you can see here, they're both Doriani jewels. If I put this one in, these nodes become armor, dodge, more fizz damage, attack speed, you know, dodge. If I put this Doriani one in, this one happened to have +1 chaos res and 20 chaos res, and +1 lightning res and 27 lightning res. It also had fire res here. So this jewel was like a godsend, because it just gave me so much chaos res that I felt so tanky. I don't know how to explain how to get these jewels. I don't fully understand them, to be honest. But that's what it was. And that's kind of what gives me so much extra chaos res. But, you know, having 60 chaos res is still really, really good. You know, if you don't have this duel, having 60 odd Chaos Res is still super solid. So that's the build. Hopefully you've enjoyed it. If you have, leave a comment and a thumbs up. I'll link a forum guide and a path of building. Have a good one. Peace.